a very good morning to all News9 viewers. I'm Neha Bhan. We continue to bring you the latest from war zone Israel. Now, as the war enters 20th day in West Asia, since Hamas carried out deadly attacks on southern Israel, we bring you quick developments. Here's the latest on your screen. Preparing for ground invasion of Gaza. That's what the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said. Israel is preparing a ground invasion of Gaza to wipe out Islamist terrorist organization Hamas, which controls the Palestinian enclave. Meanwhile, Israel has launched fresh night raids in West Bank. Shots were fired as Israel launched fresh night raids in occupied West Bank. Meanwhile, Qatar has condemned collective punishment policy on Gaza. Qatar has now come forward to condemn the collective punishment policy, quote-unquote, on Gaza. Over 6,546 Palestinians have been killed. This includes 2,704 children also. That is the latest from Israel-Hamas war on the 20th day. Over a dozen killed in latest Israeli strike on southern Gaza. Recep Erdogan, the Turkey president, has now called Hamas a liberation group, thereby making a controversial statement. UN chief, in the meantime, has said that he's shocked by misinterpretations of his statement. He had said that Hamas attacks had been in context of years of suffocating occupation. US Senator Bernie Sanders has urged a humanitarian pause. He said Israel has a right to defend itself against Hamas, but innocent Palestinians also have a right to life and security. Turkish President Recep Erdogan has described Hamas as a liberation group, which is waging a battle to protect its land. Terming Israel's actions in Gaza as quote-unquote savage, Erdogan informed a group of his party MPs that he had decided to cancel his visit to Israel and accused the Israeli government of taking advantage of Turkey's good intentions. Erdogan, however, clarified that he had no problems with the existence of Israel, had a state, but had a problem with the Israeli government's policies. The Turkish president also called for the regional actors to stop adding fuel to the fire with their increasing support to Israel. On the other hand, he urged the Muslim countries to work together towards a ceasefire and lasting peace. Listen in.
Bir terör örgütü değil, topraklarını ve vatandaşlarını koruma mücadelesi veren, evet, bir kurtuluş ve bir mücahitler grubu.
Now, Turkish President Erdogan strongly criticized Israel's attacks on Gaza, describing them as a form of quote-unquote mental illness. He called for an immediate ceasefire. Addressing members of his AK party, Erdogan accused Western powers of fraud, stating that nations supporting Israel's right to self-defense should also speak out against the deteriorating humanitarian conditions in Gaza. Listen in.
Bu sadece parlamentoda değil ha. İsrail'in Gazze'ye yönelik saldırıları hem yapanlar hem onu destekleyenler açısından hem katilliğe hem akıl hastalığına delalet eden bir haldir.
Well, now the big question is why Erdogan supports Hamas. Now let's get you, in fact, the inside story. Erdogan's AK party has strong Islamist roots, and in fact, Turkey has been jostling for leadership for Islamic world. Erdogan keeps harping on Ottoman world view of West Asia. Turkey is vying for leadership with Saudi Arabia and Iran for the Islamic world. Israel-Turkey ties have been deteriorating, and Turkey sees Saudi Arabia taking a backseat on Gazan crisis. Turkey is trying to revive its lost influence in West Asia, and Turkey, with Pakistan and Malaysia, has also been trying to counter the Arab bloc in OIC. Current Gaza crisis sees paradigm shift in Turkey's relations with Israel. And do remember, Turkey supports Hamas and has been asking for Israeli withdrawal. Erdogan's AK party has got hardline Islamist roots. Right on your screens, we are in fact explaining to all our viewers why Erdogan supports Hamas. Now, in the meantime, while his party has got hardline Islamist roots, Turkey has been jostling for leadership of the Islamic world. Erdogan keeps harping on Ottoman Empire and its influence on West Asia. Turkey is vying for leadership with Saudi Arabia and Iran for the Islamic world, and so far it has been sidelined by Saudi Arabia and Iran both. Israel-Turkey ties have been deteriorating because he is an Islamist leader who has moved away from Turkey's traditional support towards Israel. Now here, in fact, the ties between Israel and Turkey have been deteriorating because Erdogan is an Islamist leader. He's been seen as that who has moved away from Turkey's traditional support towards Israel. Turkey sees Saudi Arabia taking a backseat on the Gazan crisis, and Turkey is trying to revive its lost influence in West Asia. It has been trying to increase its influence on the Arab world. Turkey, meanwhile, with Pakistan and Malaysia, has been trying to counter the Arab bloc in OIC, which is the Organization of Islamic Countries. Current Gaza crisis sees paradigm shift in Turkey's relations with Israel, and Turkey supports Hamas and has been asking for Israeli withdrawal because it has been trying to become relevant as a mediator in support of Islamic causes in West Asia. That's something that is very important, and we're trying to explain it to all of you why Turkey is supporting Hamas. Now, it has been asking for Israeli withdrawal while also vehemently supporting Hamas. The reason for it is because it has been trying to become relevant as a mediator in support of Islamic causes in West Asia. As speculation grows regarding Israel's potential invasion of Gaza to dismantle the Islamist terrorist organization Hamas, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has announced that Israel is preparing for a ground invasion of Gaza. However, he refused to provide any details regarding the timing of the operation. In a televised address, Netanyahu stated that the decision on when the forces would enter the Palestinian enclave controlled by the terror group would be made by the government's special war cabinet, which includes the leader of one of the centrist opposition parties. That's what Reuters reported. Netanyahu said, and I quote, "We have already killed thousands of terrorists, and this is only the beginning. Simultaneously, we are preparing for a ground invasion. I will not elaborate on when, how, or how many. I will also not elaborate on various calculations we are making, which the public is mostly unaware of, and that is how things should be," quote unquote. So far, the war has killed more than 6,000 people in Gaza, including over 2,000 children, while more than 15,000 people have been injured. Let's listen in to what the Israeli Prime Minister had to say.
We are raining hellfire on Hamas. We've already killed thousands of terrorists, and this is only the beginning. Simultaneously, we are preparing for a ground invasion. I will not elaborate on when, how, or how many. I will also not elaborate on the various calculations we're making, which the public is mostly unaware of, and that is how things should be.
Now, U.S. White House spokesperson said that humanitarian pause would benefit the Hamas and give time to residents of Gaza to leave the territory. Several dual citizens of Gaza have been caught up in the war and are unable to leave. Let's listen in.
From the beginning, we want to see all measure of protection for civilians, and pauses in operation is a tool and a tactic that can do that for temporary periods of time. So does that mean that is not the same as saying a ceasefire? Again, right now, we believe a ceasefire benefits Hamas. We have said, continue to say, that fuel is an important commodity for life and sustainment in Gaza for the Palestinian people that are still there. And we know that fuel is a precious commodity that's running out, and you need it for generators in hospitals. You need it to run the desalination pumps so that you can drink fresh water and not seawater. All of that is important. And so we're going to continue to work with partners in the region. We're going to continue to push for fuel to get in. Now, look, that said, I said this again yesterday, we certainly understand Israeli concerns about the possibility for Hamas to abscond with fuel and use it for their own purposes and not allow it to be used in hospitals and desalination plants.
While inspecting military units in Suez, Egyptian president said that Cairo is playing a very positive role in de-escalating the Gaza crisis. Sisi also said that in light of current events, it is important to use capabilities wisely, adding that the army's role is to secure Egyptian borders.
ده دور أصيل ورئيسي للقوات المسلحة، وهو حماية الحدود المصرية وتأمين الأمن القومي المصري ومصالح مصر. وهنا لازم أسجل وأكد أن مصر أبدا عبر تاريخها القديم والحديث ما كانتش أبدا بتتجاوز حدودها، يعني كان دايما كل أهدافها أن هي تحافظ على أرضها وترابها دون أن تمس.
في اتجاه السهم رقم 6 وعلى امتداد شعاع البيارق المميز باللون الأحمر.
في ظل الظروف اللي موجودة في المنطقة دلوقتي، وكلامي هنا لينا كلنا، مهم قوي انك انت وانت بتمتلك القوة وبتمتلك القدرة، انك انت تكون بتستخدمها بتعقل وبرشد وبحكمة.
The Israeli military has once again accused Iran of having ordered the recent attacks by terrorist group based in Yemen, Iraq and Lebanon. Now, in a televised media briefing, Chief Minister's spokesperson Daniel Hagari said that spokesperson Daniel Hagari said that Iran was providing Hamas with weapons, training, money and intelligence services. He also accused Iran of promoting an anti-Israel sentiment globally through online messaging campaigns. Take a listen.
איראן סייעה לחמאס לפני המלחמה במישרין, באימונים, בהספקת אמצעי לחימה, כסף, ידע טכנולוגי. גם ברגעים אלה נמשך הסיוע האיראני לחמאס במודיעין ובהסתה ברשתות ובדרבון בכל העולם בהסתה כנגד מדינת ישראל. במזרח התיכון שהשלוחים, הפרוקסי, כפי שהם מכונים על ידי איראן, פועלים מעיראק, תימן ולבנון, ההנחיות מגיעות רק ממקום אחד, מאיראן. מי שמערער את המזרח התיכון עבור מעשי חמאס דאעש הנפשעים, שלא יתחבא.
Now, the UN ambassador for Iran, Amir Saeed Iravani, has said that the Secretary of the US had attempted to wrongly blame Iran for the Israel-Hamas conflict. He also said that the United States had further intensified the conflict by overtly aligning itself with Israel at the expense of the Palestinians. Listen in.
Today, the U.S. Secretary of State once again attempts to wrongly place the blame on Iran. Iran categorically rejects these groundless allegations. Our commitment to the regional peace and stability remains unwavering. Iran aligned with the international community in endorsing the call for an immediate ceasefire and a cessation of Israeli relentless military aggression, as well as imperative to halt the forced displacement of over 1 million people from Gaza. The United States' unwavering support for the occupation and aggression has rendered it an active part of the problem. The U.S. has further exacerbated the conflict by overtly aligning itself with the aggressor at the expense of the innocent Palestinian population. The rapid provision of military and logistical support to the oppressive occupying regime thus made the U.S. complicit in the brutal massacre of innocent Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. Mr. President, it is regrettable that today at this chamber the United States, Canada, and certain Western states attempt to shift the blame from the wrongdoer to the victim. They equate the self-defense and right of self-determination of Palestinian people with terrorism, attempting to grant the occupying regime Israel an unjust right to self-defense.
Red Crescent Society shared photos of aid distribution in the Gaza Strip, where Israel had been escalating its airstrikes. They showed boxes being unloaded in a residential area in the central town of Deir el-Balah and outside a United Nations-run school in Khan Yunis. The PRCS reported that 8 trucks carrying water, food and medicine had arrived in Gaza from Egypt late on Tuesday. This marked the 4th emergency aid convoy to enter the region since the conflict began with Israel. It was on last Saturday that Israel allowed aid to reach Gaza through the Rafah crossing, and it said that it is also keeping a close watch on Hamas and ensuring that Hamas does not take over on any of the aid that is being provided to the people of Gaza, to the distressed people of Gaza. This marks the 4th emergency aid convoy to enter the region since the conflict started. During the early hours of Wednesday, injured children and infants were brought to the Indonesian hospital in Gaza following an Israeli airstrike near the Jabalia refugee camp. Videos shared on social media depicted the distressing scenes as a number of children, some covered in dust, arrived at the hospital and received medical attention from healthcare workers. According to the source of the video, these injured children had come from Jabalia. Right on your screens, these heart-wrenching visuals of children who are now being taken to an Indonesian hospital, brought to the Indonesian hospital following an Israeli airstrike near the Jabalia refugee camp. Some shook, some covered in dust. Videos there on your screens depicting the distressing scenes. Residents of southern Lebanon, which is the heartland of Hezbollah, are in dread of Israeli strikes. Now, this reminds them of havoc created by Israeli strikes that killed over 100 people in 1996 and dozens in an airstrike in 2006. They're fearful that if the conflict escalates, they might not be able to escape. Have a look at this report.
This rusted-out tank is Israeli, a relic from when Israel occupied parts of southern Lebanon back in 1996. That was a different conflict to the one fought today between Israel and Islamist militants. But this town, called Kana in Lebanon, is the heartland of one of those combatants, Israel's sworn enemy, Hezbollah. Many world leaders have expressed fear that the current war will expand into other countries. Some people in Kana believe that's not only inevitable, that they're used to it and might not be able to escape this time. This was smoke rising from the border Tuesday. Rabab Youssef lost her daughter in an Israeli airstrike in 2006. She says every now and then they create a war and you lose a family member. You give birth and you don't know if the child will stay with you.
What really impacted me was an interview with a Palestinian child, where the journalist asked him, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" They said, "In Palestine, we do not grow up. They kill us. If we're walking to school, they kill us." Where are these children's rights that people around the world demand? I don't understand. Our only mistake is that we remained on our land. That's our only mistake. It's a mistake because we chose to protect our land, just like any other person.
Switching our focus to some other stories now, at least 22 people were killed and 50 to 60 others injured in mass shootings in US's Lewiston. Now, Lewiston's main police department released pictures of the suspect, a bearded man in a long-sleeved shirt and jeans holding a rifle in the firing position. Now, the sheriff's office posted 2 photographs of a suspect on Facebook saying he was at large. The Central Main Medical Center in Lewiston issued a statement saying it was reacting to a mass casualty, mass shooter event and coordinating with area hospitals to take patients. Lewiston is part Lewiston is about 35 miles north of Maine's largest city, Portland. 22 people have been killed, while 50 to 60 others have been injured in mass shootings. Yet another mass shooting that has taken place in US's Lewiston. Take a listen to some of the reactions.
That approximately 6:56 this evening, a couple of shooting incidents occurred here with multiple casualties in the city of Lewiston. And police are currently searching for a Robert R. Card, 4/4 of 1983 of Bowdoin. Card is considered armed and dangerous. He is a person of interest, however, and that's what we'll label him at moving forward until that changes. If people see him, they should not approach Card or make contact with him in any way. The shelter-in-place order that currently stands in Lewiston remains. A vehicle, which was a vehicle of interest in this incident, was located in Lisbon, and we are now also asking residents in Lisbon to shelter in place. So please share that information. We have literally hundreds of police officers working around the state of Maine to investigate this case, to locate Mr. Card, who again is a person of interest and a person of interest only. And we'll continue to gather information so that we can bring the suspect to justice. Well, Mr. Card, who we're speaking about right now, is a person of interest and a person of interest only, right? I'm not listing him as a suspect at this point, and we're not prepared to go into his background or anything else that we may be aware of.
Now, Delhiites are struggling to breathe with the air quality in the national capital deteriorating once again. The overall AQI in Delhi stood at 256 this morning. The air quality was described as poor. To mitigate pollution, water is being sprinkled through anti-smog guns. My colleague Vivek Sharma gets us the latest.
राजधानी दिल्ली में प्रदूषण का स्तर एक बार फिर बढ़ता चला जा रहा है। बुधवार की सुबह जहां प्रदूषण का स्तर PM 2.5 190 दिखा रहा था, तो वहीं गुरुवार की सुबह यह आंकड़ा बढ़कर 200 का पार कर चुका है। इस वक्त हम मौजूद है कर्तव्य पथ पर, और जहां मौजूद है वहां से कुछ दिनों पहले इंडिया गेट पूरी तरह से साफ नजर आया करता था, लेकिन आप तस्वीरों में देख सकते हैं कि इस वक्त इंडिया गेट मानो स्मोक की चादर से घिरा हुआ हो। स्मोक की चादर ने इंडिया गेट को मानो ढका हुआ हो। अगर हम पूरे दिल्ली की बात करें तो पूरी दिल्ली में जो एयर क्वालिटी इंडेक्स है PM 2.5 वो फिलहाल यहाँ पर 256 दिखा रहा है, यानी कि खराब स्थिति जो है वो दिखाई जा रही है। इसके अलावा दिल्ली के अन्य इलाकों की अगर हम बात करें तो पूसा रोड की तरफ की बात करें तो आप देख सकते हैं कि यहाँ पर जो PM 2.5 है वो 221 दिखा रहा है। इसके साथ ही अगर हम लोग आगे की तरफ चलें तो रोधी रोड पर जो PM 2.5 है उसकी स्थिति 225 यानी खराब श्रेणी दिखा रही है। उसके अलावा अगर हम लोग दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी की बात कर लें तो यहाँ पर जो PM 2.5 है उसका आंकड़ा 300 को पार कर चुका है, और 316 यहाँ पर जो है स्थिति दिखा रहा है, जो कि बेहद ही खराब श्रेणी में दिखाई जा रही है। इसके साथ ही अगर हम एयरपोर्ट की तरफ चलें तो आप देख सकते हैं कि यहाँ पर जो PM 2.5 है वो 283 दिखा रहा है। इसके साथ ही अगर हम लोग यहाँ धीरपुर की तरफ चलें तो आप देखेंगे कि यहाँ पर जो PM 2.5 है वो भी 300 का आंकड़ा पार कर चुका है। यहाँ पर 307 PM 2.5 दिखा रहा है। इसके अलावा आया नगर की हम बात करें तो आप देखेंगे कि यहाँ पर जो PM 2.5 है वो 208 दिखा रहा है। अगर हम लोग दिल्ली NCR की बात करें तो नोएडा में आप देख सकते हैं कि यहाँ पर जो PM 2.5 है वो 270 के आसपास दिखा रहा है। इसके अलावा अगर हम गुरुग्राम की बात करें तो यहाँ पर जो स्थिति है वो थोड़ी ठीक दिखा रही है। यहाँ पर जो PM 2.5 है वो 176 दिखा रहा है। तो इस तरह की स्थिति जो है दिल्ली NCR में देखने को मिल रही है। जो दिल्ली की बात करें तो दिल्ली जो है पूरी दिल्ली में खराब श्रेणी दिखा रहा है। डॉक्टर जो है वो सलाह दे रहे हैं कि बुजुर्ग और बच्चे जो है वो अपना खासा ध्यान रखें, और साथ ही दिल की और साथ ही सांस की बीमारी से ग्रसित जो लोग हैं वो मॉर्निंग वॉक के लिए ना निकलें, ज़रूरत पड़ने पर ही घर से बाहर निकलें। डॉक्टर सावधानी बरतने की सलाह दे रहे हैं। फिलहाल की बात की जो स्थिति जो है वो खराब श्रेणी में दिखाई जा रही है।
Now, Hurricane Otis has brought massive destruction to Mexico as Mexican president said that there were landslides, heavy rains and roofs had been ripped off on the highway. However, there were no immediate reports of fatalities from the passing of Hurricane Otis in southern Mexico. That's what the president informed. He also cautioned that authorities were struggling to get updates due to loss of power and networks. Listen in to understand the situation.
Sí, pegó muy fuerte.
The hurricane hit the state of Guerrero really strongly. We have sent Army and Navy brigades since yesterday. We have activated the DN3 naval plan. So far, we haven't had any human losses, but there are no communications, so we are not certain. There have been material losses such as damage on the road. There are landslides on the highway to Acapulco. People from the Transportation and Communication Ministry are already working to fix it. Our biggest worry is the Costa Grande Highway and the population that live between Acapulco and Zihuatanejo.
Now that's in fact Hurricane Otis that has struck Mexico. It's a Category 5 storm and it has brought massive destruction to some parts of Mexico. The Mexican president Andres has stated that there were landslides, heavy rains and roofs had been ripped off. The experts, however, in some respite have predicted that it would weaken as it moved inland. The main concern remains the high winds, heavy rains and flooding. Fortunately, no loss of life has been reported so far. The president has cautioned that the authorities were struggling to get updates due to loss of power and networks. That's all we have in this edition of the Bulletin. Thank you very much for watching. Have a blissful day ahead. This is me, Neha, saying goodbye.
मेरा welcome. You're watching Global Lens on News9 Live with me, Neha Khanna, and our focus continues to be on the escalating Israel-Hamas conflict. The main UN agency working in war-torn Gaza has said it will be forced to halt its operations later today due to a lack of fuel, and that is certain to massively aggravate the already grave humanitarian crisis in the besieged enclave. And what's worse, hospitals in Gaza are stopping all except emergency services as fuel runs out. Israel is not allowing new fuel supplies to reach Gaza, even as it accuses Hamas of stockpiling hundreds of thousands of liters. The trucks carrying humanitarian aid to Gaza are loaded with multiple essential supplies, but no fuel. Israel says fuel, like diesel, can be used both for civilian and military purposes, and it does not want to risk letting Hamas getting its hands on fresh fuel supplies. The trouble is, this would only mean further misery for Gazans, and aid workers warn that hundreds, if not thousands more, could die as a result of not receiving medical treatment. The Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza now says almost 6,500 people have been killed since the 7th of October. More than 1,400 Israelis were killed in the attacks on Israel by Hamas, and more than 200 people are still being held hostage in Gaza. All right, we have a guest joining us now live from Gaza. Let me go straight across to him. We are joined by Yusuf Hamash. He is a Palestinian advocacy worker who joins us live from Gaza, as I just said. Yusuf, thank you so much for speaking to us. This is a very difficult time for people of Gaza. I want to begin by asking you, how are you? How are your family, friends and colleagues?
Thanks for hosting me, and unfortunately my situation, me and my family and my colleagues, is similar to other 2 million people who are living in this piece of land. Unfortunately, the situation is collapsing day by day. We are under heavy bombardment since 7th of October until now, and thousands of people were killed, hundreds of thousands of houses have been demolished and from the Israeli airstrikes. And with tightening the siege on Gaza, not allowing for any supplies or especially fuel to get into Gaza, as you mentioned in your report, it's making everything even harder for us without fuel, water and electricity, and also nothing else coming into Gaza, and the demand is really high because a lot of thousands of people had fled from the northern part to the southern part in Gaza, and there is no enough capacity in the south to host these hundreds of thousands of people who were forced to flee from the north and Gaza City. The situation is really difficult for everyone, and it's a bit miserable for everyone and a bit challenging every day to find the daily needs for families and children here.
I can imagine, Yusuf, when I spoke to you earlier in the day on the phone and I asked you how you were doing, your reply was, I'm alive. And it even made me wonder if I'd asked you the right question, because that's the situation that Gazans are facing today. Every minute feels like a ticking time bomb.
So every day.
Yes, go ahead.
So every day we start our day as our cycle of life is our.
Can you unmute yourself, Yusuf?
Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So every day our cycle of life is a daily life. So every day, if we survive, then we wake up for another day. Then we start our daily missions, providing food, water, and food for the families, because we are all hosted here in other houses, or a lot of people who are not lucky to have relatives here, they are hosted in Norwa schools or hospitals or green areas, or other people who are in the streets, while we never have homeless people here in Gaza. If we wake up every day, then it's a new life, because we live day by day, and we don't even have enough time to feel sad for the people we lose on a daily basis. It's an impossible situation to live in, and I don't think we can keep up and handling this situation for longer. It's a miserable situation that we are living here, and unfortunately we don't see a real intervention from outside the world leaders especially, to stop this chaos situation here.
Do you feel, Yusuf, that the world has abandoned the Palestinians, the people of Gaza?
It's not a feeling, it's a fact. Everyone can understand that it's became a fact, that everyone is mentioning the political situation without considering the human life and the human loss for other 2 million people. And it's not new. This war is not new for us. I witnessed wars more than my age. And unfortunately also, everyone is ignoring there is 2,300,000 citizens living here under this heavy bombardment. And I think more than 12,000 tons of explosives have been thrown on Gaza. And no one is we don't really feel or see, even in the media, that there is any intervention that's taking place outside. All what they were talking about, that allowing 20 trucks to come to Gaza, 28 trucks to come into Gaza. And we saw all this propaganda on the media about the intervention of the United Nations and the White House to allow for 20 trucks. In Gaza, before this war, our consumption was 500 trucks per day, without war and without humanitarian need. Now, during all of this chaos, we managed to have 20 trucks of aid. This is unimaginable situation. I don't think, it's really weird that the world is not taking a real action towards the madness that's happening here.
It is madness indeed, and I promise you, Yusuf, that I am trying to take the voices of Palestinians to my viewers in India and abroad every single day. But coming back to this important point you made about the humanitarian aid, 20 trucks a day, that's a drop in the ocean, and they're making it sound like a big favor to Palestinians.
Unfortunately, as I mentioned before, we used our daily need was 500 trucks per day under the siege, because we are under siege for more than 17 years. They allow for this 20 truck, which is less than a drop in the ocean of needs that we have here. More than half of the population was rely on the humanitarian aid before this madness started. And imagine how is the situation now when people lost their houses or were forced to flee from North and Gaza City towards the south, having nothing. Even I personally, after I lost my house in the north, I had to flee to the south. All what I have is 2 t-shirts and 2 jeans. I had to start my life again. I have to find everything needed for me and my children and my family from the beginning. I don't know why all the world and all the media is talking about this 20 truck. It's really weird.
It is, and it just seems so unfair. You said you lost your home, Yusuf, and you had to move from the north to the south with your family. Can you tell us a little bit more about your personal story?
So I lost my house on the 3rd day of this escalation. And when it became really heavy and we were asked to flee and to evacuate from the north and in Gaza City toward the south, I collected my family, my extended family. It's not only my wife and my children, my mother and my 4 sisters with their children. We are talking about 24 members. And I asked one of my relatives here in Khan Yunis to host us. He was generous, we had the space, but also there's a lot of challenges here every day. We have to find the fuel to push water to the house tanks if we had water. And we need to find the bread. Every day I have to go to stand in line in front of a bakery for more 2 to 3 hours of my day is just in front of the bakery, waiting in line to get half a bucket of bread. And imagine what I'm having 24 members of the family in one house. Also, it's unimaginable situation how we are living here in the night mainly, because it's more intense and the bombing is getting really heavy in the night. So we are really terrified. We are terrified and afraid from the night. So now we wake up in the night because we cannot sleep from the bombing, and we are waiting our turn. Maybe we are next because the bombing is maybe near. Yesterday behind the house, the bombing was very near. 33 people were killed and more than 100 injuries. I didn't imagine that I will see the daylight again. I was lucky. I woke up in the daylight. And that's the day started with your phone call today, and when we discussed the situation. But then now we are waiting another heavy night of bombardment, and unfortunately we are completely useless in front of our families and in front of our children. It's very challenging situation for us here.
We can't even imagine it, Yusuf. My heart goes out to all of you. Every day you wake up, you said it feels like a new life, because it really is. You talked about 24 members of your family, including your wife and children. Is it becoming impossible to feed them?
So the main issue is that there is a lot of people who are leaving again from the north and from Gaza City. And Khan Yunis, the city in the south, doesn't have the capacity itself to host all that amount of people. And there is not enough for all of these people here. So the consumption is getting more. So the demand is more and the availability is less. So for example, if we are going to the market finding things for the house, we don't go finding specific things. We go and we buy whatever we have. It's really getting harder every day. The challenge became more harder every day. It used to be 1 hour in front of the bakeries, now 2 hours. Then I believe tomorrow is going to be 3 or 4 hours just finding a bucket for bread. And this is despite the other needs. For example, I have one of my sisters, she's pregnant, about to deliver her baby. For me, it's a terrifying situation how I'm going to manage if this happened during the night, because it's not safe to move in the night. How am I going to take her to the hospital because the hospital's only working in emergency and the ambulance cannot come to pick her. We think about our life on a daily basis. That's what I can tell you. We are living every day, and when it's finished, we wake up for another day. A new life started. We think about our needs. We try to offer them, provide them all. Then if we're lucky to find all the demands, then okay, another day started. The next day, looking for if we survive. It's a bit chaotic situation, and I don't think we can keep up or handle more. This madness needs to stop now. Now, if not now, I don't think when. After more than 6,000 people were killed. You're talking about more than 150,000 houses were destroyed. House and units were destroyed. What the world need more to convince them to take a real step to stop this madness.
The madness has to stop. I hear you, Yusuf, and that's what a lot of us are saying. But Israel is in no mood to listen. They have ruled out a ceasefire, and they keep claiming that we have warned Palestinians, asking them to leave North Gaza and go to Southern Gaza, which is where you are now. So let me ask you, is it correct to say that Southern Gaza is safer than Northern Gaza, or are bombings taking place in Southern Gaza? Are people dying in Southern Gaza too?
Yesterday, it's only yesterday. So yesterday, 110 people almost, I'm not very sure from the statistics, were killed during the night. More than 50 were at Khan Yunis in the south. And there is no safe place in Gaza. All what we are doing is trying to convince ourselves that it's a bit safer there. And then we don't know when the roof will fall above our heads with an airstrike. There is no safe place in Gaza. And this is yesterday I was checking with my family if there is an option in the north, for example, because it became really hard here. We put back, okay, and we can come back. I'm really thinking about that because there is no difference between being in the north or in the south. The same bombardment, maybe in the north it's a bit more intense. There is a lot of bombardment, even random bombardment, because they are pushing people to flee. But because I'm from the north and I know more in the north and I can facilitate things for the family more in the north because it's more challenging here. We are a bit new for the place. We don't have real access for everything because we are not from this area. That's what makes it more challenging. There is no difference between south or north in terms of bombardment and human loss. There is no difference. Yesterday, one airstrike, 5 houses were demolished, 33 people were killed, and more than 100 injury in one airstrike, just one.
No difference between the north and the south. People are dying all over Gaza. You mentioned, Yusuf, you have a pregnant sister and you are terrified to think about how you will get her medical attention when she needs it. What is the state of the hospitals? Because what we are told is because Gaza is completely run out of fuel, the humanitarian trucks are not carrying any fuel into Gaza on the instructions of Israel. Hospitals are shutting down operations. The main UN agency working in Gaza says they are forced to halt their operations. What's going to happen?
Actually, the health sector, even before this madness started, is collapsing because under the siege for more than 17 years haven't been really upgraded. And we're facing a lot of challenges. Add to that, more than 14,000 injuries, and the capacity, it's like 400% above the capacity of the hospitals. And also there is a human loss between the doctors. You're talking about 1/3 of the human resource doctors is available in the hospitals, and 12 hospitals are out of service. You do the calculation. You can do it. And imagine having in 20 days or less than 20 days, around 15,000 injuries, 6,000 or more people killed in this narrow piece of land. With even before the medical sector was in really collapsing, even before this madness started. The fuel is an essential need to keep all the hospitals running because there is a lot of hospitals went out of service either because of bombing or because they ran out of fuel or because it's in a dangerous area like Beit Hanun Hospital in the north. And I heard that the Indonesian hospitals in the north was about to shut down. And this is really make it harder for people who get injured. Now, for example, they have to understand, based on the medical situation of each injury, they will decide if he can stay at the hospital, he have to be treated at the house. And even if he was having serious injuries and there is no space at the hospital, they send him at the house. If you go to the hospitals in Gaza, you will find injured people are in the corridors, in the front of the hospital itself, not only in the rooms, because there is no enough space for anyone there.
Yusuf, Israel says we can't give any fuel to Gaza because Hamas may use it for military purposes. What do you say to that?
I don't know what is the military purposes from the fuel. This is first of all. And despite anything, they are thinking about this way. If there is a humanitarian need, essential need for hospitals, and there is thousands of ways to monitor all of that fuel, and as they monitor that one truck that everyone was talking about it as a life-saving thing, which is like a major thing that they did, they could find a very clear method that can clarify all the demands that they're looking for and provide the fuel at least for the hospitals. This can be easily done through the UN, international agencies, other humanitarian actors. This can be done, but there is no real steps towards that. No one is talking about that because it's a responsibility for everyone to do or interfere and giving a real intervention, especially in that as a beginning. We were hoping that this one truck could be a sight of hope. It's like a small window towards something bigger. Then we failed. And it's not that we failed, the world failed us. The humanity failed us. It's really weird how 2 million people suffering from all of that under the sight of the entire global population. There's 8 billion people seeing what's going on and no one is doing anything. This is inhuman.
This is inhuman. This is catastrophic. The world has failed Palestinians. Humanity has failed Palestinians. I could not agree more with you. And as you were saying that the international community must intervene, you have Israel preparing for a ground invasion of Gaza, Yusuf. How much more catastrophic is that likely to be?
This is going to be a fire, a fuel to the fire. This is another scenario that we are really afraid of. All of this bombardment and all of this violence without the ground invasion. I used to work as a journalist and I witnessed 2008, 2009, 2014, 2018, 2021 wars as a journalist. So I really understand what it means for a ground invasion and how it needs a militant power to cover it. So this scenario is scaring and it's terrifying everyone here. If this really take a place and they did the ground invasion, you are talking about, despite all of this madness, it's going to be a new level of bombardment and a new level of violence.
All right. And, I want to ask you also about the number of Palestinians who have been killed. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, 6,500. Are you worried, Yusuf, that the real figures could be much higher? Because there are perhaps bodies lying buried under the rubble of collapsed buildings.
There is more than 1,500 requests to the Ministry of Health and to the Civil Defense about people who are under the rubble. This number is just the beginning of something really bigger. And for me, even this number is enough to show the world how is the situation here. In 20 days, more than 6,000 and more than 1,500 are missing under the rubble. Hopefully, and I'm pretty sure, as we witnessed before, you will find some incredible stories for people who survived even under the rubble. And I really hope it's going to be all of them. But when you look to the situation in general, you think in a weird way to us. We see other crises in the world and how the world interfered. And I don't want to compare it to other crises in the world, but this is unacceptable. How is the double standard toward people? If you are dealing with a human being, as you have to deal them as a human being, despite their race, their color, or who they are, or where they are, or what type of conflict they are under in. This is a human being. There is a humanitarian law that protecting them even under war. But this double standard from the world and this unacceptable silence from the international community and the world leader is really shocking. It's really shocking.
It is shocking. In fact, the United Nations chief said that nothing justifies the attacks on Palestinians in Gaza, and Israel is so upset over that statement, they have decided not to issue any more visas to UN officials. And the US, France, UK, multiple Western countries have said we fully stand by Israel. They have every right to defend themselves. And in the name of Israeli self-defense, thousands of Palestinians are dying.
Attacking houses without warning and forcing thousands of people to flee and bombing more than 150,000 houses and killing more than 6,000 people is a self-defense. Let's the world do the calculation. I don't want to talk because I'm Palestinian. I'm part of this tragic situation. Look to the statistics and the figure, and please, you tell me, that's a self-defense, how this is considered a self-defense, despite all these governments are saying. They are just ignoring that there is more than 2 million people living this chaotic situation and talking to the looking to the situation on one eye and closing the other.
And what explains these double standards according to you, Yusuf? I mean, are Palestinians being treated as children of a lesser god? Their lives don't seem to matter to the world?
Unfortunately, yes. While every life matters, we are a human being. We are all what Palestinians were seeking for years, to live like other 8 billion people on this planet. We don't want more. Just like other human being. And I don't mind half of that, the rights of a human being, but we don't even have the half of that. We don't have even animal rights. I'm really sorry to say that, but we don't even have it. And despite all of that, world is seeing all what's going on, and no one is doing anything, which is shocked. Even I'm really personally, I'm shocked. How is the reaction from the international leaders, all the international community leaders? Everyone is mentioning what happened 7th October, and you agree or not with it, or all of that, and they just ignore 2 million civilians living their life, just leaving them under this heavy bombardment. I never think in my entire life, I never even imagined that I would live this kind of situation, just being displaced in Khan Yunis. Was lucky someone is hosting me from my relatives. And at least when every day, if I manage to find the house need and my children need, I feel lucky that like I did it. I did it. I get the bread. I want everyone to see the smile on people's faces when they get the booked bread after waiting in line for 2 hours. The smile they have is like a victory smile, that they get $1 million. It's worth more than $1 million when you want to feed your children. And everyone is just ignoring that. They're just leaving us in that situation. And I don't know until when we can keep up and handling this situation. And all what we can do is every day, if we wake up, then new life started. We do our role, provide for the family and the children. Then wait if we manage to live another day, to start the cycle again, while everyone is just looking to the situation in a weird way without doing anything to stop it. That's it's really weird. I don't really have enough words to describe how it's really hurt us. It's not only the bombardment, it's more how that no one is really caring about that. This is more, it hurt more than being bombed. It really hurt more. When you feel that you are less than a human, it really hurt more.
Not being cared for hurts more than being bombed. I think those are very strong words, but you're right. I completely understand what you're saying, even though it's unimaginable for us, the life that you're living. But nobody caring about Palestinians is so much worse than being bombed. And you're right, killing thousands of people and bombing millions of homes, that cannot be described as self-defense.
Yani I think I ran out of words describing what we are going through. But I think all the world need to know that we are living lives of hell. And it's a responsibility for everyone. It's a matter of being a human being. It's something related to humanity. It's a responsibility for everyone on this planet to push towards stopping all of this madness. And history doesn't forget. And I really hope that especially the international community and world leaders, when they look to their children, just imagine or think or remember children who are being under the situation in Gaza, and just for a second, look to your children and imagine they are living this hell here. And after that, let's see what they will think.
I don't think they would even want to imagine. That is the level of insensitivity that we are looking at. But, you know, I hate to ask you this, but I will. Tell me this, Yusuf, what would you say to those Israelis who say that the blood of these Palestinians is on Hamas's hands, not on ours?
Yeah, it's a matter of, it's a blood. People are bleeding on a daily basis. There is people killed on every hour. every 5 minutes at least. According to statistics, if you multiply the statistics on the time, that 20 days, every 3 to 4 minutes, there is one being killed. I don't care. It's a responsibility of who is that's responsible for the killing. I care about the international community and to stop that. It's not the time to think it's whose responsibility and who's killing who. It's a responsibility for everyone to stop that killing. And there is a lot of racism, there is a lot of ignorance, but we don't think about that. We are just hoping, pushing, calling, praying, whatever you call it, to stop this madness, despite anything they think about, despite how they will think about us. And even if this stops, while I really hope this stops soon, I don't think there is a way to recover from all of this madness that we are in. And I don't think there is secular, social methods that could help us to recover from the situation, the human loss that we see, and the destruction, the experience, the incidents that we win. We need years, even if this stops, we need years to recover, to deal with just to live normal life. We need more than years. I don't think, we need decades just to recover from all what happened in these 20 days only. And it's not a matter of who's responsible again, who's responsible for killing who. It's a matter of stopping that killing. People are getting killed on a daily basis. This needs to stop.
It is innocent Palestinians who are paying the price and have got caught in the crossfire between Hamas and Israel. So I'm going to ask you this, Yusuf, through our channel. What is your message for Israel? What is your message for Hamas? And what is your message for the world today?
Yeah, I don't think if I say anything for any part of the two sides, we're going to hear. But I have a message for the international community and world leaders to stop that. And even if they stop it, they have to go back to the root causes for all of that. We keep living in this cycle of violence. This is not new. This is not the first time that we are in this war. This is, even me, I witnessed 2004, 2008, 2009, 2012, 2014, 2018, then 2021 when my house was also bombed while my wife was pregnant, and it was a chaotic situation also. Then I'm witnessing that now. We need stopping this madness immediately, and also we need a longer term solution for us. Lifting the siege on Gaza as a beginning and find the solution for us as Palestinians living in this cell for more than 70 years. World leaders had to take the responsibility and stand ahead of the responsibility, not avoiding that. They should. And I hope anyone listens. All what we can do, because trust me, the solution for this situation is not here. The solution is outside. The solution is in other hands. The solution is in the international community and world leaders' hands. It's not us or the Israelis or anyone here. It's people who are outside who can see the clearer image from above and need to interfere in stopping this madness. It's their responsibility, and they have to stand ahead of their responsibilities.
It is the responsibility of the international community to end this madness. I agree with you 100%. But let me also ask you this, Yusuf. While the bombings need to stop and there has to be a ceasefire, do you believe that Egypt should be willing to accept refugees from Gaza? Because it has said no so far.
I can give you this just because this question, especially everyone's talking about that. Even personally, I'm a refugee. I born and raised as a refugee in a refugee camp named Jabalia in the northern part of Gaza. I always was listening to my grandfather telling me about immigration when they had immigrants from Al-Majdal, from then to Gaza, to Jabalia and the refugee camp. I will never accept to be the second generation of refugees, and I will never leave, even if the roof will fall above my head. I'm not going to be the second generation of immigration. And also, unfortunately, I have to leave because I cannot move in the darkness, and it's getting dark now. So I'm really sorry.
No, you don't have to apologize. I am sorry that I kept you for so long, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart, Yusuf. My prayers with you, with your family and all Gazans. I hope all of you stay safe. Please stay in touch and keep me posted on your well-being. Thank you so much for speaking to us, Yusuf. Thank you. Thanks a lot.